Unwitting Conspirators, The Burn Book. Prologue. It was the first break in the case they'd had in a little over a month. With a crime of this magnitude, even a day longer might have resulted in the city bursting at its seams. All eyes seemed to be surrounding this story, waiting for a break in the clouds of the impending storm. Reporters were already slinking into the wide mouth of the apartment complex parking lot, salivating at the potential headlines. A SWAT truck was parked on the side of the building closest to the open arena of space littered in vehicles. The sun was peeling back the night, as if it too had received the memo and couldn't be held away from witnessing the uncovering of answers long awaited. "So you're sure no one else is in the apartment at this time?" No one. Like I said, it looks like there hasn't been anyone in there in a month, at least. I'd have let it go another month, but the occupants in surrounding apartments had complained about smells leaking out the front door and around their balconies. Seemed to be coming from that one. I barely made it in the door without gagging. The team lead nodded, listening for relevant details through the building manager's version of events. He called the apartment number through the earpiece, connecting him to the squad already inside. A team of agents in dark tactical SWAT gear swarmed silently through the hall above. They followed the corridor down, scanning each doorway as they passed, as if a single mind controlled them. The lead man touched his ear softly, his steps narrowed on the approach of a door mid-corridor. 308. He nodded to the others. They'd all heard the same instruction. It was a diffused arena. If a civilian had walked through without setting off any potential booby traps, it was safe to assume proceeding with caution, weapons low and ready, was the way to enter. The unlocked door swung open easily, revealing a dark portal coated in newspaper clippings and red strings. So many of each, they coated the entire entry hallway and bled out of their range of view. It was almost artistic. The Reapers stepped slowly as they made their way deeper into the apartment. At the base of the structure, the building manager, Gerald, was wringing his fingers. This wasn't his wheelhouse. He'd never dealt with something like this. He was quite certain the bigwigs would be looking for someone to hold accountable. How could he have not vetted his clients? There had to have been some red flag. And what if the other occupants found out the extent of what had been hiding and living among them? His temples leaked marbles of sweat. People had begun to stop and wonder at the scene building outside. Journalists and local news figureheads were stepping from vans with questions Gerald had no idea how he would answer. Renters were coming out of their buildings into the courtyard and grumbling together. He could feel their eyes on him, expecting him to come and tell them things he didn't know, things he was still wondering himself. He wrung his fingers all the harder. Speculation swam through the air, bouncing around into a general nervous excitement. The situation had Gerald agitated, and they uncertain, which only increased his discomfort. Poor Gerald. What a pickle this time. Wrong place, wrong time again, you silly fool. Suddenly he wanted nothing of it. The weight, the responsibility. As far as he was concerned, he'd done his part, due diligence and such. He had no further weight in the game, not one bit. To think, he confronted the occupant more than once. Knew their face. Had probably said things he might not have said had he known who he was dealing with. He shivered at the thought. His eyes shifted to the growing crowd behind him. murmuring, always murmuring. How many of them are like that? His eyes widened. He looked again, with new eyes framed through this thought. He swam over their faces. What if I tell one of them, who's like that, something they don't want to hear in the future, and they decide I'm the last one who will ever tell them what they don't want to hear ever again? At this point, Gerald was quite sure humans had proven themselves capable of anything. Gerald's heart leapt into double time. His eyes pulled him to face the direction of his current company. He watched the man in tactical gear, stoically taking it all in, waiting to hear from the other end, to pass along information to those above him. Gerald nodded to himself slightly, standing in a way that almost mimicked the integrity of the team lead's posture. He felt a surge of confidence. His eyes narrowed in on the tactical gear again. I bet I'd feel pretty big and bad if I was bulletproof too, he harumphed to himself in agreement. In the end, we all answer to someone, don't we? It felt right. He started to back away, deciding this wasn't his problem. This wasn't his fight. Gerald was just the middleman, and he'd played his part well. Should I be up there with them? I feel like I should have taken pictures. I ain't seen nothing like it. Freaky, man. I saw faces no one's ever gonna see alive again staring out at me from the walls. And that smell. I should have opened the windows, let some fresh air in. Should have maybe cleared off the windows. How did I not see that from down here, that they were covered? He wandered to the edge of the sidewalk, looking upward. He lost his balance over the curb. Gerald's ankle twisted unnaturally, and he let out what could only be described as a gurgling squeal of pain that spun the team lead on his heel. He caught the large man by the arms in time to slow his fall. "Sir," the sergeant called out, "I'm going to need you to let us handle this from here, okay? You've done everything you could. Go ahead and lay low for the next few days, if you can, and stay away from reporters. We don't know anything right now, and the last thing we need is them getting false impressions to stir things up. It's a beehive out there," he stated firmly, as if politely asking Gerald to chill out and shut up. He ended the thinly veiled reprimand with a pat on the back. "Ah, that smarts poorly." Gerald cradled his throbbing ankle as a wave of relief washed over him. He squinted into character, suddenly not minding the pain. You're right. And I couldn't make it up those stairs right now if I tried anyway." He struggled to his feet, favoring the now twisted for no reason ankle, since it was his mouth and flighty nature that had earned him a position on the timeout bench. Gerald hobbled away from the scene, pulling out his phone for a ride to the nearest emergency clinic, while leaving the much-needed break in the crime of the century in his wake.